Hello, everyone. Amanda Vereda here from GitLab, and I'm very excited to bring you another edition of our Gente Team Member Spotlight series. Today, we are spotlighting Melissa. Melissa, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at GitLab, please?
Excited to be here. I'm Melissa Ushakov, and I live in Austin, Texas. I'm the group manager and product for the plan stage. So what that means is I'm a people manager for the PMs that work on our planning capabilities. I've been at GitLab for about 4.5 years, and I was born and raised in Mexico in a border town called Rio Bravo. And I moved to the United States for college, and then I just kind of stayed.
Awesome. And a little fun fact for those who are watching, Melissa's my manager, so I get to work with her every day. Okay, diving in. Melissa, can you tell us what inspired you to pursue a career in technology?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I grew up in a tiny town in the border of the Mexico, Texas border. And fun fact, like from my front door to the international border is a 15-minute drive. So it was always like a very multicultural, multi-currency experience growing up. So like pesos to dollar conversions were part of day-to-day life, and going to the currency exchange and getting the your pesos to dollars and so forth was a very normal thing growing up. And then when I was 15, I took a programming class in school. So that was my first experience with programming, and at first it was interesting, but what really clicked it for me was that one of the assignments that we got was to build a little program that would help you do the calculations of pesos to dollars. So that made it really click for me, where I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like there's this thing that I can use to solve these problems that I see day to day. And we like built it up where it was then pulling in the latest currency prices because they change every day. So that really made it click for me and made me realize that technology was this thing that could really help streamline people's day-to-day lives and make it more efficient. So from there, I knew I wanted to work in tech, but I wasn't clear on how, but I just knew I wanted to be a part of that.
That is so cool. And ironically, I took a brief Ruby course in learning how to program. Don't know how to, but my first project was a currency converter. So
Yeah.
it must be a common example. How were you converting currency before that happened?
Calculators. Even because listen, I got started in tech a long time ago. So then it's like computers are still being like rolled out as a thing, right? So people had calculators at the currency exchange places, and they would do it all in a calculator. So it was actually kind of cutting edge to think of having a software program to do that.
You saw the future and you wanted to be
I
part of
saw the
it.
future. I
That's
was like,
right.
okay, that's it. I like that.
That's awesome. Can you tell me how your cultural background has positively impacted your work at GitLab?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's really interesting, and this is something I've reflected a lot as I've been sort of, between cultures, is that one thing to know about Mexican culture is that it's rooted on collectivism, right? So, and and this is the case for a lot of Latin America, where what your expectation as a member of society is to look out for the collective whole before you look after yourself, right? And it's expected that you'll do what's best for, your whole group, even if it means like sacrificing yourself a little bit, right? That's just kind of how you're brought up and what's expected of you. So I think that's something that's deeply rooted in me, and I think that's how I approach all aspects of life, including work, and how I approach leadership, right? In now being a people leader. So some things that are really important to me is like having a team identity, making sure people feel welcome, making sure everyone knows how they fit into the big picture, and cultivating an environment where everyone helps each other succeed. So those are things that are important to me personally, and I think these are also things that lead to more positive work environments and better business results.
Well, I can say firsthand that I have absolutely seen that from you. And I feel that as a member of your team, that we are a collective and that you're always encouraging us to share with one another and help in ways that we can. And you're there also to help us. So personally, I have positively been impacted by that
Oh, that's
portion of
good
your
to hear.
culture. Thank you.
But yeah, that's something that is interesting to reflect on. I think for all of us, right? As we think about ourselves and our upbringing, what are some of those key aspects of your values that, are reflected in your work persona?
Absolutely. Moving on, how do you think GitLab can contribute and support and promote diversity and inclusion within the company?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that GitLab already does really well that I think as we continue to grow, we shouldn't lose sight of. So I think the async culture really lends itself to cater to more different communication styles, and that's something that's been really powerful. I think the idea of putting an agenda on meetings, driving agendas from the documents, really give everyone a voice. And this is particularly important in cultures that are different, right? For example, in Mexican culture, there's a lot of emphasis on leadership, and there's definitely hierarchies are viewed very differently. So you'll find that individuals may be less willing to speak up, right? Especially if there's leadership in the room. So I think having things like agendas and ways for people to voice their opinions and have time to craft their message before they speak up, those things are really important to be more inclusive and to allow more people to have a voice and an opinion. So keep doing those things, right? And I know we all do this, but all of us are stewards of the culture, right? So I think it's everyone's responsibility to make sure those things stay as we continue to grow.
That's such a great detail because it might not be readily apparent, even though we say everybody can contribute and you can always voice your opinion, but people's cultures might prevent them from doing it because they've been taught that they're meant to be quiet and only let the leaders talk and so forth. So that's a really, really great call out.
I think, and
Mhm.
one other thing, if I can add, kind of in that same spirit, I think as people managers, we have a big responsibility to elicit voices, right? And knowing that people may not readily, know that they can contribute in these ways, to elicit voices, and then also make sure some of those crucial conversations are happening around career development and some of those difficult conversations for some, right? Making sure we are proactively asking people what their career desires are and how we can help them. Because I think we can't expect everyone to be as forthcoming as open, because that can be very uncomfortable depending on your culture, right? Those are not things that are, I would say, people's preferred communication, to put it out there, right? That this is what they want, because that may not be how you were raised. And that's the case with me, right? That's something that I have to push myself on.
Yeah, that's right. It can be intimidating and uncomfortable. That's
Mhm.
great. Last question for you. What message would you like to share with the GitLab community in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month?
Yeah, I think Hispanic Heritage Month is an opportunity to learn about other cultures, just as I'm telling you about Mexican culture today. That's not the same across Latin America, right? Latin America is very broad. There's a lot of subcultures, so it's a way to learn and be aware of other people and how they perceive the world, and that ultimately leads you to be more inclusive. And in that note, like, thanks to whoever's watching, and hopefully you learned something about a different culture today.
That's awesome. I've already interviewed somebody from Paraguay and somebody from Costa Rica and learned in both of those. So
Hmm.
that's a really, really good point. We're hoping to spotlight folks from all different areas. Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for participating in this. Thank you for folks who are watching. Is there anything else you want to share with the folks who are watching this?
Yeah, sure. So I have an open door, right? Like, if any of you ever want to learn about people management or product management or planning capabilities, definitely reach out on Slack, or on GitLab. Definitely always open to hearing from anyone.
Thanks so much. And thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for the next Spotlight series to come. Bye-bye.